Happy New Year, and welcome to the inaugural, very first long rest. Guys, we gotta be honest, doing two shows, Monday and Friday, weren't really working out for us, and we didn't feel like we were giving our best foot forward. So we decided to combine those two into this right here, the long rest, something that I think you, me, and maybe all of you out there could probably use a little bit more of. This will be the similar vibe of what the Roll Call Mondays and Behind the Screen Friday shows were, but a little bit broader at the same time. We're not going to pinpoint ourselves into such a steep player dungeon master. It's going to be all that and more here.
Yep.
And we'll be here on Saturdays.
Absolutely. Find us right here for Saturdays for your weekly discussion.
So,
Without further ado,
please, what's today's episode about?
yeah, we're going to start off 2026 with a bang. So, everybody out there has a D&D campaign in mind.
Yeah.
Let's get your campaign started in 2026.
This is the year.
This is the year
This is it.
that your campaign comes to fruition. So how are we going to get there?
Big one is you have to be able to, you got to find somebody. You definitely can play D&D by yourself. It might get boring after a little bit. I'm sure you can make it manage.
There are single-player D&D campaigns there that you can follow along with, or you can even take and make your own. But we found the best way is to have at least one other player.
Yeah.
At least one other player. If you guys need advice for how to run one-on-one D&D, you guys found the right place.
Yeah, that's kind of what we do now.
Yeah, but in other words, finding your players is all about finding a group of friends that collaboratively want to tell a good, fun story. Just hanging out, role-playing, enjoying each other's company at the table, and telling a cool story along the way. So how many players does that look like to you?
You know, we played, through the podcast, we played one-on-one. Our home game we've played now through a couple different campaigns, but we played with 5 players and a Dungeon Master, so quote-unquote a little bit of a larger party. We've had opportunities where we played one-shots or like little one-offs with 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
I think the sweet pot is in that 2 to 3 range. It's enough for the players to have a little interactiveness. The story's a little bit more intimate. It has great pace and movement. Sometimes, especially in D&D, I kind of fall to the more brains are better, because you and I might think a certain way, but then you add the third person, he might think something different and adds a whole different element to the game.
Yeah.
And even with 5 is great. You start trickling above 5, it definitely probably is quite a bit around the table.
It's a lot. Combat takes forever.
Oh, goodness,
and
yes.
Even just getting everybody to pay attention and be involved at all times.
Yeah.
Once you get past 5, it gets pretty difficult. But at 3 is where we've kind of found a really fun sweet spot where you got a good party spread, so you don't have to worry about somebody not being able to cast spells if you only have one person. Somebody being able to tank the hits. Somebody able to sneak around, a utility monkey, whatever you want to call them. So you can spread your abilities out throughout a party if you have at least 3.
Correct.
2 to 3. But then on top of that, you're bouncing ideas off of each other. They are feeding into the story, and you don't just have to rely on one person to drive the story. You have a couple extra people, and ideally at 3, it's such an intimate setting that driving the story is going to be a lot easier than if you have 5 or 6 or 7 players. At that point, keeping them engaged is just about as hard as driving the story forward.
I think that's very true. It is interesting as the players increase. It's not that the story lacks, it's just that it gets much more difficult to balance it out between the players. From a Dungeon Master perspective, I just think your job gets really thin because you're trying to give everybody a spotlight, and it does get tougher that way. So just naturally, combat, boy oh boy, does that take longer periods of times.
Yeah.
And so the pace of the game just drastically changes. And it's the flip side, as you get less players, pace of the game drastically changes based on what that 1 or 2 players wants to do. It could be a very quick game, or it could still take a slower approach and more intimate approach and still get those great story moments.
That's exactly it. Is the size of your party is going to determine more than anything the pacing of the game and also the intimacy of the game.
Yeah.
Just how involved each character is with each other, with their stories, with the role playing, with the NPCs that they find. So truthfully, the smaller the party, the more intimate that becomes. The larger is whenever it might start dropping off in that aspect.
Yeah, in which, in the most cases, in today's day and age, what media we kind of consume, the big guys, Critical Role, Dimension 20. A lot of them have, and add anybody else in, goodness, Critical Role's campaign.
5 or more.
Yeah, campaign 4 has so much talent at the table. 10 plus players. Brandon Lee Mulligan, hats off to you, brother.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, in which, because you got a higher scale, very good talent, I'm sure it kind of breeds more people around the table, but it doesn't have to be that way.
No.
You definitely can have an amazing time with 1 or 2 players, and you still get that glorious opportunity to play the game we love.
Even if we think about popular media nowadays, Stranger Things really kind of ramped up the popularity of D&D at the time.
And
who do we see around the table?
Right now.
3 players, 1 DM. Is that the sweet spot?
Hey,
let us know.
The Duffer Brothers might have hit it on the head, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where's my Demogorgon? Let me just place that down.
Wrong kind of Demogorgon.
Yeah, you're right. So, and that's it. Find your group, get it, and once you get it established, that's when it's important to start to get into the finite details of playing that game. We think it's very important to set those standards first.
Absolutely. The most important standard that we think should matter is scheduling.
Yeah.
If you guys wing it every month, like, can we play this day, can we play that day? 90% of the time, especially as you get more people added into that, somebody's going to have a conflict because they didn't account for, well, we don't play every Wednesday night, so if I have plans this Wednesday night, that's totally fine. But then everybody else is only available Wednesday.
Yes.
So it gets punted to next week. And then it gets punted to next week. And then it's months between playing, and the campaign starts to lose its luster. You forget where you left off. You're not invested anymore because it's not fresh in your head. It's like picking up a book after a month. You don't even remember what the last sentence you read.
You got to read the last 2 chapters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So instead of backtracking, if you have that consistency, if you know when you're going to meet, worst case scenario, you say, hey, something came up, I can't do this week, but next week I know for sure this day we're good to go. The day that we have scheduled, every Wednesday night, every whatever day it needs to be for you guys, you're good to go.
Yeah,
So.
Which I would say we can throw amazing props to our home game. And the one thing that I think we've all done is set a priority. And I know it sounds funny, we're playing Dungeons & Dragons, we're playing D&D, but we've set a priority on a night, on a time, and we all do our absolute best every night, or every week that is. For that time, we set it. Ours has been Friday night. On Friday night, we play. And obviously things come up, canceled plans happen. But boy, do we all set a priority for it, and we make it happen, and we play. Luckily, I guess we're graciously able to say we play a lot throughout the year. We are very fortunate to be able to play, but that's because everybody around the table puts a priority on it, and we choose to be there and make that our choice, not our second choice.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a
Absolutely.
very important thing to do.
Yeah.
So
after you've got your schedule, after you've got your schedule set, next steps are getting the campaign ready.
Yes.
Everybody has an idea for a campaign in their mind. Maybe you've already had most of the scope written out. You have the BBEG, you've got the NPCs, the setting, everything. Your players are ready for it, but you still have to make sure everybody's on the same page for that campaign. I am a huge fan of Spelljammer. That might not be everybody's jam, right? So I'd have to tell my party, hey, this campaign is going to be a Spelljammer campaign. If that's okay with you, cool. This is the party for us.
What if it's not?
If it's not, truthfully, that's DM and player dependent. If I'm dead set on running a Spelljammer campaign, I couldn't imagine trying to do Commander's Log in any other setting.
True.
I formulated the entire idea off of Spelljammer. Even all my subsequent campaigns that I have in my head, they're all Spelljammer because this is what I love. I'm not a Star Wars nerd for nothing.
So, well, with that being said, though, I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit. I think that if you had a player that came to you, you would find ways to dial it back a little bit to find that want that they'd want as well.
Yes, absolutely. That's the biggest thing, too, is working with your players. What do you want out of this campaign? What do I want out of this campaign? Why are all of us friends sitting together around this table dedicating one night a week, a couple of nights a month, whatever it is, taking the time out of our personal lives to sit together and tell this story? What are we trying to accomplish?
In which it does go to the flip side of the coin. The players also, that's your time to start prepping for that campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And you might not know the story yet, but you can get a general idea of what's your character, maybe a couple of characters. If you're like most people, I'm sure you have a plethora of characters in the bag.
I only have 22 ready to go at all times.
Yeah, not enough. No, it's like 5 times as many as I think I do. But the getting that structure ready, and then you can, once you and your DM get the setting, you get that opportunity. Now you guys, the time to joining together. Now you're able to find that backstory for your player, and you're able to input them into that world, which you guys have agreed upon. So it is there's a sweet spot there where you guys kind of split and conquer in that moment, and then now you guys come back together and go forth, which leads us pretty much into what is a very important thing, which is session 0.
Yeah.
Session zeros are super important. All just from like setting the kind of initial background of the game to the characters, how do you decide to do stats, and kind of roll in and like get the pinpoint, the generalities of how the campaign's going to start.
How each character is going to know each other.
Yeah.
Who they know in the world, if they know anybody, what they're doing there, why they're there. It's all important, and it's just building the framework of the campaign so that when you actually sit down to play, you guys are ready to roll. It's not something new and fresh. You're not sitting there going, oh, what are we getting into?
Yeah.
You know your character is going to fit into that story with purpose.
Yeah, in which sitting around a table, depending on how many players you have and whether you know them or not, it's your kind of opportunity as a player, when the DM speaks to another one, you can kind of glean information about the world within reason.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time the DM's not going to be sharing secret or kind of hidden knowledge at that moment. It's going to be broad term stuff. So at that session 0, you kind of get to learn the world and help put that into your backstory, even if it's just mentally, so you can pull things later. And you kind of recognize names of towns, names of things. It gives you a chance to kind of indulge into that.
That's huge too, is just knowing the world that you're living in is somewhat, at the very minimal, somewhat familiar to you. That way it's easier to remember, easier to know what you're doing, why you're doing it.
So that rules, it's after session 0, we have something that we've kind of coined our 0.5 sessions.
Yep.
I'm sure other people call it that, maybe so, and maybe this is something that you guys do, but between the session 0 and session 1, the DM, we've discovered a really cool way to, like, you start with 1 player, or maybe it's 2, and you help guide that entire player to session 1. Whether you start 15 years ago, or maybe it's just 2 days before session 1 will actually start, but you help put their foot into the world, and they have a step to go on.
Yeah. Like a perfect example, we are prepping for our next home game, so the new DM is stepping into what used to be your role. We started off with a session 0. All of us sat around the table, all the players, the DM. DM described the setting, told us kind of what the gist is, and then he said, what do you guys want to play? We went around the table and we determined, I want to play a barbarian, I want to play this guy, I want to do this. Then once we had the class, the DM went around the table and said, okay, you're playing this class, what's your species? What's your what's your goal here? And so we all kind of formulated each other characters around each other. We were able to build a party so that way we can mesh, and it's not 4 paladins starting session 0
Which we should put,
or session 1.
This is a beautiful tidbit of lessons we've learned along the way. It's all fun and great to have a secret party, to find out your classes and all everybody else's stuff at session 1, but boy, is it kind of a hindrance sometimes, and it feels like it's a little, not a letdown, it's not the right word, but you miss out on opportunities to allow people to be special in their own right. And I'm so excited for this campaign, because it's the first time we've truly all sat down and be like, okay, you're playing a tank, I'll play a damage, I'll play utility, I'll play a healer, I'll play a completely different style of tank melee. So we all have such a specialty. I'm looking forward to it a lot.
Yeah.
Because we will all have our unique spot.
Infamously, I DM'd a game before we've learned our lessons, before we learned them the hard way. And those goofballs decided, 2 of them did not want to talk to each other at all before
none of us did.
Yeah, nobody talked to each other about what their characters were. Turns out we sit down session 1, Dragonborn Paladin. Sweet, let's get that rocking and rolling. Yeah, it was, we made it work. It was super fun. But just from a personal perspective, from being the DM, I watched that it just created this weird balance between the characters where they didn't mesh entirely well, because 2 characters were trying to do the same job. And then even previously going into the campaign, they didn't know what each other were doing or why they were doing it. So when it came to creating a party, there was a lot of tension. And even just tension in game can worst case scenario, lead to tension out of the game, which is another hard lesson we've learned. If you're going to start a D&D session or a D&D campaign in 2026, make sure that the emotions that happen at the table stop at the table.
Yeah.
You don't want to ruin a whole campaign, a whole friendship over role playing. Draw that hard line and check in with each other.
Yes.
At the end. Be like, hey, bud, you frustrated me right there, but I love you. Like,
yeah.
It was fun role playing that moment with you. Let's go talk about literally anything else.
Yes, like we're not professional actors. It's hard to step away sometimes because especially when all you're doing is getting up from a table, maybe a kitchen table, and you're just leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is a set stop. So when those emotions run high, when that happens, when the game stops and the DM goes, and that's where we're going to call for the night, it is a very good thing to do when you have those sessions to immediately speak up and say, hey, I was frustrated in that moment. And it might have leaked into my real life about the character.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Let's move forward. I'm not mad at you. I'm not frustrated. We're good.
Yeah.
You know, like being the bigger person in that moment and just understanding we're all human.
Yeah.
So we're here. The main focus is to have fun and have a great time and great memories.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing to remember.
Absolutely. And that's why I love D&D.
Yeah.
It's created lasting memories, lasting friendships that I would have never had before. Or it's a way to continue friendships growing.
Absolutely.
With all that being said, I sure hope you guys are ready to start your 2026 D&D campaign. What is your best advice? If you're fixing to start a campaign, what's your hardest lesson learned?
As a dungeon master, be careful on setting strict timelines. It is a fault that I struggle with, admittedly, and I hope that I've learned my lesson. But it is super easy to set a standard, and if it's off in the distance far enough, when there's a timeline, it puts a damper on the game, whether like it slows it way down or can speed it up really quickly in a ways I did not expect and I didn't want. So be careful by setting strict timelines in your game. It is a lesson that you can learn yourself by all means, but maybe you can heed my information. I previously just done one, or did it, and it slowed the game down way further than I wanted to, albeit it created awesome moments and parts of the game that I would never have experienced prior, but it's not what I had envisioned, which is perfectly fine. But I learned that when you put a date out there and it is far enough in the future, what I think will happen and given the timeline is not what the players think will happen, and ultimately the players drive that story.
We took a hard turn.
Yeah. So that's my fault. Logan, if you don't mind telling us, what would your piece of advice be if someone's going to start that campaign in 2026?
My biggest piece of advice is do not set yourself into a hard, locked storyline. If you've got a campaign in mind with a big bad evil guy, and this is how the players are going to get to that big bad evil guy, you got to know those little chaos gremlins are going to take any other turn except for that path forward. And it's only going to frustrate you as the DM. So allow your players that creative freedom to live in your world, to experience your world, to build that story together. Because at the end of the day, it's not just you telling a story. It's everyone around the table telling the same story.
I think it's pretty good.
Nailed it.
Guys, hopefully we've given you a little bit of helpful information for you to finally start that campaign you've been wanting to in 2026.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. With that being said, we're going to close out this video, and I want to ask you guys, get in the comments, start a discussion about your best advice for starting your campaign. Or, how about this? Our promo that we're going on right now for Turtle Tabs, get in the comments and just leave a comment down below saying what the title of your campaign is going to be for 2026.
That's a good one. That is a good one.
Yeah.
Guys, I think it's time we go take a long rest.
I'm getting tired. We'll see you guys next Wednesday and next Saturday.
See you.